we're live from...
And Greg said it. We are live. Welcome to this week's Hockey and Hoops Hour here on the Thunderblog Bullpen Cart Podcast feed. I, of course, am the G-Man. And with me is the original co-host, Greg Piatelli. What's up, buddy?
Hey, bud. Just, living the dream, enjoying life. I mean, I guess it's a good thing, mockery is the best form of flattery. I think it's a good thing that you have a calling card and you have a signature to start every pod.
Yeah, it's always, though, it's a signature when you get your hands on the mockery because you always keep me in check, and having you do the opening, it means we've truly made something out of it.
Listen, that wasn't planned. You just said we were about to start, and I did the opening, and I didn't realize you were recording, so then you jumped in, perfect timing, but...
Well, it's funny because the YouTube live quick inside baseball here, it doesn't give you like a 3, 2, 1 go. It just is like you hit start and then it's any random time. Maybe there is a timer and I've just never noticed it, or there's like a set number of seconds that they just don't show when you hit start.
Right.
But it worked out that way. So good for us.
But the point is, Jordy, that you have a signature and you have a way to start the pod every time, and it's only going to help grow this bad boy.
Grow the brand.
I love it.
But anyway, so
let's get into it.
We are in the February lull, if you want to call it. We're in the depths of it as the NBA All-Star game just wrapped up. We are going to do some hoops. We're going to start with that, then go into a little golf, a little Olympics, a little hockey, and then finish things up with a little spring training update because spring training is finally really starting with all the players reporting and teams are making signings. But I just mentioned it. The NBA All-Star game was this weekend. Greg, did you watch any of it? How much did you watch? Let's break it down.
Those are the questions. That's easy.
How much did you watch?
So I was... Friday night, I was in and out of the was that sophomore rookie challenge, now World versus USA?
The Rising Stars Challenge, they call it.
Oh, thank you for the trademark. Yeah, it used to be rookie sophomores, but I watched that because I got a little alert on my phone that Brown for the Celtics was tearing it up, and obviously Tatum was having a great night as well, and so checked in the young guys a little bit, which was nice, and a little upset that Team USA was getting smoked by World, but also...
Well, it was the Sixers plus some other players, so, trust the process. How awesome were those World jerseys, though? Like, for real, for a second. The orange World across... They looked like hockey jerseys, and they were just awesome. I really enjoyed them.
No, I agree, and the USA ones were pretty cool as well. The only thing I didn't like about the USA ones because I feel like the Lakers wore a similar color throwback this year, So
it did look like they're like Minneapolis Lakers jerseys with that light blue and yellow and whatnot.
Yeah,
I don't know where they pulled the orange and black from. They almost look like the Flyers don't have that color scheme or don't have that full orange color, but it looks like a Phantoms jersey, their AHL team.
Everything goes back to the Flyers, huh?
It's where my mind goes. It's the first one. You got to be relatable, Greg. You have to.
I love it.
It sounds more authentic.
I love it. No, honestly, I think the jersey was pretty sweet. Like I said, I was in and out of that game. The skills competition I watched. I had it on in the background. I was out, and I wasn't really watching. I had an eye here and there, and I missed any. There wasn't really too much of note.
Yeah. Not too much to miss there. I didn't watch any of that. I did watch a lot of the Rising Stars on Friday. Did not watch the skills. I watched college basketball in the Olympics Saturday night. Then I didn't really even watch any of the game itself, to be honest. It doesn't do it for me that much.
No, not really for me too. And I think that's the plan. I think honestly people watch it for if we're being honest, Jordy, I think what the NBA has done best is that they allow people to rip their videos and put them on Instagram. And I basically watched the top moments of the All-Star games through replay on Instagram all night, and I kind of like the all black and all white jerseys, but at the same time, I wish they had chosen different colors. But it was what it was, and it looked clean, and I think it allowed some guys to shine and allowed some guys to do well, and also made Jimmy Butler with his whole sitting because he was tired thing. Other players are pissed at him because they were like, I would have gone, or it's all the NBA really has done a good job of marketing themselves like, I don't want to say a soap opera, but very much so like a.
But on that note, they're going to broadcast the draft next year, which is going to be awesome.
Yeah, but they broadcast the NHL draft the first 2 years, and that was a lot of fun. And like Ovechkin was like, "Pick me last so I can win a free car," and he wanted like the bonus, and all the player and like the captains picked him second to last just to mess with him and let him think that he actually was going to get it.
Yeah.
There's funny things like that, and like I said, quite frankly, it is what it is, and that could be fun, but I don't know. I like the player mixing thing. I mean, the NHL started it, and the NFL did it for right after, and it's good and this and that, and MLB will never change. But it's the All-Star Game is fun because you get to see all these superstars together. But everyone knows it is what it is, and it's for what it's for. Would you ever think the NBA? I know they have the break, but would you ever think like these big sports? Like the long season sports, do you think they'd ever switch their All-Star Game sort of at the end of the playoffs?
Like the Pro Bowl does?
Yeah.
So what, like in the week off, like they were supposed to last year, but it turned into 2 weeks between the conference finals and the finals?
Yeah,
it would be just an All-Star game.
On that game. I mean, I guess it's a silly move because your top guys don't in, and it's a long season, so everyone gets a break. So that's a terrible question. Don't even give it. The
other side of it too is that like you pick like a lot of them, like baseball, the managers are the managers of the 2 World Series teams. This year, I'm sure it's also because they're the 2 most popular players in the league and 2 of the best players in the league. But it was Team Steph versus Team LeBron, that's been the marquee matchup of the finals for the last 3 seasons.
Well, no, yeah, it was the top 2 vote getters were going to be the captains, and everyone was like,
"Yeah, is that how they did it?"
Yeah, everyone was nervous that Giannis was going to be the captain, and then somehow LeBron won it in the last week. Funny.
Oh, surprise!
Funny how that worked out, right?
Yeah, right. No, to answer, I mean, it's an interesting thought, or like do it at the beginning of the year, or something like that. Or I guess it wouldn't be an all-star game; it would just be a popularity game at that point. You did at the beginning of the season, but. It's funny though because everybody's good, and we're even going to frame it as the second half. But they've played. There's 25 games left, 30 games left in the season.
Yeah,
so it's
24. Yeah, it's 2/3 of the way through, and good segue there. That's why you're the best host in the biz. Second half predictions. Do you want? Let's start. We'll start with the West Coast since both our teams are in the East.
Yeah.
Houston right now half a game up on the Golden State Warriors. Just because they've played 1 less game, and that means they have 1 less loss, both tied in the win column. Spurs, Timberwolves, Thunder, Nuggets, Portland, the Pelicans with the Clippers a half a game, and the Jazz 1.5 game out of the playoffs. Those are really the teams that are going to be those 10 teams are really going to be the teams that have any shot, in my opinion. But going on here and looking at the top teams, can anyone come out of the West outside of Golden State? Keep in mind that the Spurs, they just announced Kawhi is most likely done for the year.
Yeah. Pop saying he'd be surprised if Kawhi came back. Still, though, having a pretty good defensive rating despite no Kawhi. But I wouldn't think I'd rule them out. I'd probably rule Minnesota out. Oklahoma City's tricky because if they get hot, they could be a surprise. I think Houston's got the best shot. Those remaining 3, or really remaining 5 if you include LA, LAC, and the Utah. They'll probably make for some entertaining first round matchups, but I think it's Houston, Golden State in the Western Conference Finals, and that's going to be really what it comes down to. I'm not sure if Houston has the guns to go the distance against them. I think you could maybe get a 7th game. Yeah, especially if Houston ends up getting the 1 seed, I think you could see a 7th game there. But we talked about this a lot last year in a different sport, but with the Stanley Cup Finals, where we weren't sure with Pittsburgh of how they would if they could, and how that all that was going to go. But bring it back to basketball, if it is something where Houston has, games, what is it, 2-2, 1-1-1, so they'd have game 6 at home. They might be able to force a game 7, but if that's if they're the lower seed. But if it's Golden State has game 6 there, it's just interesting that way. I don't know. I think Golden State still gets through, though, as I just really tripped my way through it.
Hey, look, sometimes you gotta say things out loud to talk yourself through it. I get it. I'm okay with that. Honestly, Jordy, it's one of those things where, what's great about Golden State is that they have the defense as well. Durant, for everything he does in offense, still is not a bad defender, and obviously Draymond's a good defender, and they say Klay Thompson's athletic to keep up with people in the league, but like Steph is not stopping Chris Paul, and Klay, in reality, there's only so much you can do with Harden, and if you're double Harden, they can kick out to anyone else in the team. You double, like, the best part about this year is like Harden doesn't have to do it all, so he can take possessions off, and Chris Paul can penetrate and dish, and the Warriors would have to collapse in on someone else and this and that. So in that regard, I think I think they do present somewhat of a matchup nightmare, or not nightmare, but a matchup problem. And I loved when you said Oklahoma City, because if they can put it together, they can make a little run. They got that big dude in the middle, that 6'7" guy, or what? Sorry, but probably 6'8".
Kiwi.
Yeah, that huge guy.
Adams.
Yeah, thank you, Steven Adams. So,
do you remember? Have you ever seen his stock photo? Just like the picture that they put out when they show the starting lineups. Really weird segue, or really weird non sequitur. But he stares so intensely, like literally, you could pause it on your TV and think that this guy's gonna fucking murder you.
Right.
The guy's, and he's an awesome defender too. So if you're right, if he gets hot, I mean. They almost did it when KD was still there and blew a 3-1 lead that quickly was forgotten because Golden State did it in the next round. But,
yeah,
I think they put it together, PG-13.
Yeah, I think Chris Paul really brings – I mean, Melo's Melo, but I think Chris Paul really brings that KD, when he was there, he was also trying to be the superstar, whereas Chris Paul and Melo were like, Russ, this is your team. Like, we're just support players. So I think –
You mean Paul George. Chris Paul's on the Rockets.
Right. That's what I meant. Paul George is really helping them, and I think that's like that mentality or that attitude of like, we're not second fiddle, but this is your team. Like, we're support cast. Like, I think everyone's buying in, and that's helping rolling out here. And we'll see. But honestly, I think it's Golden State's to lose. Obviously, easiest pick in the thing. I really think the teams that could challenge them would be the Rockets or Thunder. I mean, the Pelicans, I thought maybe, but obviously now that Boogie Cousins is done for the year, tore ACL, or tore Achilles? His Achilles, yeah.
ACL or Achilles, something in the legs.
No, it was his Achilles, yeah. So I don't think they potentially serious threat. So that's what I think. And I think right now, I think teams are just tanking. It's a race for last, so they can get the lottery ball. How
about Mark Cuban getting fined today for saying you guys should probably, if we lose out, it's probably not a bad thing.
Oh, shit.
Fined $600,000.
Hey, listen, I like that he's so honest. I like that he's, I like that he's, I like he's outspoken, and honestly, I liked him even before Shark Tank, but I think him being on Shark Tank really added to his allure or whatever. But give us an East breakdown before we start talking. Before we get into predictions for the second half, give us where things stand.
Yeah, so we got Toronto in first by 2 games. The Celtics kind of stumbling into the All-Star break at second place. They're 4.5 up on Cleveland in third, who came in red hot after LeBron godfathered his way into being the complete alpha in Cleveland once again. Washington is in fourth. Indiana's in fifth. Milwaukee, 6th. Philly, the Sixers, in 7th. The Miami Heat in 8th place after losing to the Sixers right before the All-Star break. Detroit right there in 7th. and Charlotte knocking on the door, but still a little bit far away in 10th place. And that's really about it. The Knicks are right behind Charlotte, but they lost Kristaps and are in the midst of an 8 straight game losing skid, so they're out. And then the rest of the teams are in full tank mode at this point, except for maybe the Bulls. But if they're smart, they'd probably tank.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they would have wanted them to tank much earlier. And so, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. Honestly, with the Celtics especially, I think they overperformed in the first half. I think people expect them to be good with Kyrie, and just like last year, they overperformed last year as well. And with having the best record and this and that, and I think it's a good sign it's a sign of how good Brad Stevens is. But at the same time, they're relying so much on their young guys. They're relying so much on their rookies and their second year guys that at some point they're going to get tired. At some point they're going to hit a wall. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. The college season is half the games, so it's just not realistic that you're able to keep up that clip, keep up that pace for 82 games for those rookies and even sophomores. So I'm hoping that this is their wall. I'm hoping that this is their wall, and I'm hoping that they come back and have a even if the Celtics play reality here's my prediction, but even if the Celtics play let's say they play 5 to 6 games above 500 for the rest. They have the 24 games left. Let's
pretty
say
good record.
Yeah, I mean, they're still winning 54 to 55 games, and that's still better or right around where they were last year. That's still potentially good enough to be a 1, 2, or a 3 seed. I mean, probably a 2 seed at that point. I mean, depends upon Toronto, but that's good enough for me and Celtics fans, in my opinion, because you still get the host and Toronto has proven time and time that come playoff time, they just don't get the production from their superstars. So
that's what I was going to say. I don't believe this Toronto in first place. They're riding a 7-game winning streak, so that certainly helps. But you hit the nail on the head. Their superstars aren't always on the same page, especially in the playoffs. I've seen them in Philadelphia against the Sixers, and they seem to get tripped up there. So you add in some of those X factor players like Kyrie, you add in LeBron, and I can sound as incredibly biased as I want to with certain players on the Sixers, but they add such a different wrinkle of talent than Kyle Lowry or DeMar DeRozan has, and they can trip them up enough that supporting cast kind of falls by the wayside. And I don't know if I trust them holding on to that 1 seed going down the stretch. To give a quick prediction on them.
I mean, do you think the 76ers move up? Do you think they move out? Do you think they want to sort of model themselves after the Celtics like they've been doing for so long? 76ers riding the Celtics coattails, but just sort of
since the 80s, I mean,
make the playoffs as an 8 seed the first year and get that playoff experience for the young guys, and then come back the next year and be in the top 4 or 5, and then be a 1 seed and make it to the Eastern Conference, and then get Kyrie, the best point guard in the game, and become a 1 seed again and win the title. I get that's where the 76ers are going.
To answer your question, so I like them in this 7-6 area. Some people think they could get all the way up to 5. That really depends on how Milwaukee does. I think they're on the up and up. I think they could flip-flop with Indiana. The Sixers could flip-flop with Indiana. I think they're probably in that 6-7 range. They could potentially overperform to 5. The big wrinkle with the Sixers is that they have one of, if not the easiest schedule remaining in the NBA. They've played pretty much everybody that's currently in the Eastern Conference, if not to their maximum, 1 or 2 games there. And I say 1 or 2 because I know they play the Cavs twice down the stretch, but they played a lot against the Wizards. They've already played all their games against the Celtics. They played most of their games against the Raptors. They play Indiana and Milwaukee once. I think they're done playing the Heat. And then every other team they play in the East, and they pretty much played everybody in the West, is in the lottery right now. So, I mean, They have a pretty easy schedule going forward. They seem to be really clicking as a team. Brett Brown's done a really good job, a lot similar to Brad Stevens, except he probably around the same time they've been on the bench for both teams. Brett Brown's been around since 2013. But they've both done a good job of putting their players together, really working in that rotation. So I mean, I would say the 6 is probably where they peak out. It's crazy though, because Detroit, you'd think, should be in there with Blake Griffin, with Drummond playing so well, with the rest of that team being where they are. And we talked about this the last time you were on, when they first announced the All-Star rosters, or they announced the starters. That we thought there should be more Pistons in the All-Star game. But they may be the unlucky team that falls out of it. Miami's also just a big question mark, because you don't know which way they're going to go. They really, really kind of stumbled into the All-Star break, losing 7 of their last 10. And it was really encapsulated by their game against the Sixers, where they're really rolling. They're hitting pretty much everything in the first half. And then some shots didn't start falling, and they didn't, the Sixers barked back at them, and they didn't really have the answer. The last couple of minutes were exciting, but they seemed to almost get declawed at the very end of that game. So if they can figure that second half stuff out, I would say they're probably a little closer into the playoffs. I know you were originally asking about the Sixers, but just looking in that bottom part of the East, so inadvertently answering your question about the Sixers, they could potentially bounce them out, but it really, it just depends on how these teams can take what they've learned from the first half and go forward. I know that's a pretty canned answer. I think the Sixers, they're not safe because no team is, but with how easy their schedule is, they should make the playoffs. But we'll see. I mean, who knows if Charlotte gets hot with Kemba? They could make a push. That's a little bit more of a stretch because they're 5.5 out right now of Miami at the 8th seed. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think the Pistons, it's going to take time. Blake Griffin's there for what, 3 games, 4 games? You can't. I mean, you can't expect teams to have that long-term chemistry right away. I mean, they've been playing way better with Blake Griffin, and it's at the end of the day, they don't necessarily have the full team talent, the depth, if you will, to make a serious run. I think honestly, the Heat are the team that are surprised. That not surprising, but the Heat are the team that very much could be that they could run into this huge wall. Not wall, but they're the team to me that could fall the fastest, if you will.
I would agree with that.
And the Pistons could sneak in, but at the same time, like the Heat, they have those players that if they get hot and at the right time and this and that. But I mean, Reggie Jackson for the Pistons, their guard. I mean, he's just starting to come back, and he's could get the green light to return very soon. So it's like the Pistons could be getting their pieces back at the right time. And, Cleveland, they won a couple of games with their new team, but anyone can be excited and win their first 2 games when you're playing with LeBron and the best player in the world. So it's one of those things where who knows what they're going to be coming out of the break. The Wizards, John Wall, I mean, if he comes back, that changes their team completely. If he doesn't, then, they could keep doing what they're doing. And the Pacers are really, I'm not knowing much about the Pacers, but they really are one Victor Oladipo team, So
yeah, exactly.
I think it's going to come down to the Cavaliers and the Celtics with the potential of Philadelphia, depending upon their first round matchup, having a legit.
That's what I was going to say. If they play the Cavs or the Celtics, they're not getting out of the first round. But if they play Toronto, Washington, if somehow Indiana gets the 4 and the Sixers get the 5, they could win that. But it just depends on the first round matchup.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Philly intrigues me because with Embiid and with some of their big guys, they present a matchup nightmare for a team like the Cavs, if you will. Yeah. The problem is, the biggest issue with the 76ers is who's taking the last shot, who's got the ball in their hands, up or down, and you need a basket. And that's something that this team doesn't have right now. And you and I talked about it a couple of weeks ago. And And regardless, I mean, in the playoffs, you need to win a couple of those games. I mean, even last year, the Celtics probably shouldn't have made it out of the second round against the Wizards. But
the Wizards series. Well, Bradley Beal had that unreal shot in Game 6 to force Game 7. Remember that?
Yes, that's I literally took the words out of my mouth, and that's why you're the best host. But like, that's the type of thing that you need to have. And the Celtics even have the King of the Fourth last year, IT, and now they have Kyrie who can do the same, and even Brown and Tatum have hit clutch shots all year. So like, 76ers, yeah, they don't have that guy consistently, and I bet you Third and Girl might tell us differently, but reality is Embiid should be taking that shot, but the coach never calls the play for Embiid at the end of the game, and that's you're not gonna win if your best player doesn't have the ball in his hands in the last possession, and that's the frustrating part if I was a 76ers fan, and that's the scary part if I was a 76ers fan. But they could get.
That was the nice thing, though. Quickly, about the Heat comeback was that they looked completely lost in the first half without Embiid. And then they really seemed to get it settled, and they weren't shooting well because kind of to take your point and run with it. The Sixers do a very good job, and they have a lot. They have Robert Covington at the 3-and-D. They have JJ Redick as an outside shooter, both as a 3-point shooter and just a deep 2 shooter. He ends up having a off-kiltered shot that goes in, but to kind of make your point, when you have a mixed bag of guys like Redick, like Covington, who don't always necessarily hit those shots. TJ McConnell's had a lot of them, but when you don't have one specific guy, it could be Embiid, and he has played a lot more in the second half of a back-to-back. I almost called it a doubleheader, which is one thing that had kind of been the Sixers' MO, was to limit his minutes, which then Brett Brown infamously called it a quote suggestion after the season opener against the Wizards.
Right.
But they've played him more and more. There's some times where they want to make sure his ankle or his knee or whatever it happens to be, if it's a little inflamed, or they think he's got a little kick in his, or that's the opposite, a little hitch in his giddy up, they'll give him that little bit of rest. But who knows in the playoffs? That'll probably be the biggest thing, and see how they all respond. One thing to watch out for:
7-footers, just like people in general. 7-footers, they're just their joints, and it's too much.
That was Yao Ming. That was Yao Ming's entire career.
Yeah, sorry. Make your next
point. You're good. No, all I was going to say is the one thing to watch out for, which is almost comical right now, but it's starting to become more and more of a legitimate factor, is Ben Simmons is starting to work on his jump shot, so it could be, that could come out of nowhere. What'd you say?
I said Simmons or Fultz?
Simmons. Well, Fultz might not play for the rest of the season. Just go with basically just be initiated into the process that way of sit out your first year. Well, most of it, because he played at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, but
Ben Simmons.
Part of it's
really not a good jump shooter, but you've seen a couple of them. He almost made a 3 at one game, and the place almost blew up. But we'll see if that develops anymore.
Was he a bad shooter in college?
Yeah, he wasn't very good. He wasn't a good shooter at LSU. He just, because the SEC at that time wasn't that good, he did a very good job of dominating. That LSU team wasn't very good either, so he was really the
I was talking about Fultz
in a number of different ways.
I was talking about Fultz, but I hear you.
No, Fultz was actually a good shooter, and he was a good shooter in the summer league, and then he got some trainer that was like, "Yo, let's work on your shot." Just like how Tiger kept fucking with his swing, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But it just kind of got into his head, and he almost needs to talk to somebody and figure all that shit out.
Yeah, and I think honestly, I think if the Celtics 100% won that draft, they were like, no chance are we, like, you guys can move up one spot to take these scrubs. Like, we'll take Tatum, and Tatum's having the fucking like a career year, or an unbelievable rookie season. But besides the point, way too long in the NBA. Way too long in the NBA, Jordy. Give us who comes out of the East?
I want to say the Celtics. I really do. It's just hard to say with how the Cavs have been playing to not say LeBron. But I'm going to say the Celtics. I'm going to give you a little nod there.
The only thing that scares me is let's say 2 minutes left in Game 7. We're trading baskets back and forth. Kyrie and LeBron. No one is stopping LeBron on the Celtics defense. And if Kyrie has the ball in his hands, they 100% will have LeBron covering him. And unfortunately, I think LeBron, just sheer body size and mass, wins that matchup 7 and maybe 6 out of 10 times. So I think at the end of the day, I think Cleveland might head back there, and it might be another 4 years or 3 years in a row of the same matchup. But
4 straight years.
I think the series is a lot closer than what it was last year. But
yeah, I think so too. It would be a lot more fun this year than last year. That was just
Question. Quick plug. March Madness coming up. The Thunder BLG. What do you guys call it? Your little bracket. Give us a bracket plug.
Yeah, so our bracket group will be doing that again, so stay tuned. We'll obviously plug that on the blog. Yeah, I mean, March Madness is coming up. It's going to be interesting to see how it all goes. Xavier and Nova had a really good game on Saturday. I mentioned that I watched that with my buddy Joe Mart. Shout out to him. Watched the West Virginia-Kansas game, which was pretty awesome there. UVA looks like they're actually really good this year, which, good for them. One that I saw pop up on ESPN's BPI, which is their version of the RPI, and they're playing right now, which has made me think of them, is Penn State, who traditionally sucks at basketball, popped up because they've had a couple good wins. They killed Ohio State over the weekend, popping up out of nowhere. The Big Ten, not necessarily a down year for them, but they're getting more and more traction and kind of cutting into what seemed like was going to be a loaded Big 12, loaded SEC of all conferences of sending teams into the tournament. So you're starting to see the Power 5 conferences, at least it seems like to me, even itself out. Am I assessing this the right way? Or is my Patriot League mind just not up to snuff yet?
No, I mean, it's honestly better to have an input from you, but someone who's on the outside looking in. But I think the Big Ten is having a very, 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 very down year. Yeah. I think the Big 12.
The Big 12 seemed like they were going to send all 12 teams at one point. It seemed.
Yeah, and I honestly think that might have been preseason rankings more than anything else. Their top teams are in the top, but their bottom teams start to taper off. I mean, Oklahoma's a joke now, and
yeah, how about that? I watched because they're always on ESPN, so I'll always watch them at the end of the night, writing a blog post or whatever. And Trae Young looked unbeatable until 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because how do you? He can't surprise teams anymore. People didn't really know much about him, and now he's gotten all this publicity and all this hype, and it's like, okay, we're gonna stop your best player, and boom, now they lose games. What are they on, a 7-game losing streak? So it's
it's 6, I think, but
not good. When you have one player and that's your only team or shot, then you're 100% not going to go very far. You're definitely going to go on the slide and skid. So I'm out. The Big 12 is doing well, but I'm out on them being as good as people think they are. I think the ACC, again, reloaded, retooled. I think they're top to bottom the most depth. With obviously Virginia just absolutely murdering the year and have an unbelievable season. I think that's at the end of the day, that's going to be the toughest. The ACC will probably get the most just based on the games that I've been seeing. No bias with Syracuse because they're on the bubble and, hopefully they win. And right now they're losing to UNC, but hopefully they get in. But, I'm hoping some of the smaller schools get in. It's one of those years where anyone can win it. And when those years happen, Jordy, as we all know and as proved in the year past, when one of those years when every team wins it, you always get a North Carolina or a Kansas or one of those staple teams that come out and win the championship just because that's people, they have the depth and the fearing of this and that. And I mean, you're talking about UNC who's been to the Final Four the last 2 years and they basically got even better this year. And it's just I
was going to say, this sounds a lot and it's almost ironic that I'm bringing this up, but it sounds like 2013 when Louisville didn't win, but it was, I mean, to be fair, They played Michigan in the final. I think Michigan wasn't very highly seeded, but it was all traditional basketball powerhouses that were in that Final Four. So, but that was when you had Florida Gulf Coast who won. You had Harvard, I think, made the Sweet 16 as well. You had LaSalle make, I think, the Elite Eight. You had a lot of teams that were double-digit seeds that, like you said, they could, because anybody could do it, they were beating all the good teams early. So these basketball traditional powerhouses just rolled their way into the Final Four. And
and I think we're headed there now. I think you're going to have those upsets. I think you're going to have those early round fun teams and this and that. But I mean, I fucking hate Villanova. It's the only time I'm going to swear in this podcast, but I hate.
You can swear. You can always swear.
I know, but they're so. I hate them. Overrated. F them. I think it's hopefully it's going to be a blue blood team, and hopefully they get upset by Brown or some shitty Ivy League team in the first round.
Well, your brother's alma mater might make it. Let's not poo-poo.
Yeah, Harvard. My brother went to Harvard. My brother went to Harvard. I would never reduce him to a school like Brown, Jake Goldberg, but no. It's funny, Jordy, because the Harvard coach, like he keeps getting pursued for all these like super high, like top D1 jobs, and he keeps turning them down because he's like established himself as like an employee of the college, so they can't really even if he loses the basketball job, he can't really get fired ever, Yeah,
that's like Brett Brown at Lehigh. He, after they beat Duke 6 years ago now, he got offered a couple different jobs and turned him down. And it's really like you said, really an employee of the school, an ambassador of the school, and done a really good job of just developing and cultivating just a great culture surrounding the program. So that's awesome to hear for Harvard too.
Yeah, no, and this coach, like I said, is just having like one of those unbelievable, I guess, seasons or whatever, but it runs, like you said. He even started. He was Jeremy Lin when they made those runs there, and every year it sounds like they're close to it. But yeah, so let's quickly give I want to talk briefly about golf. You mentioned it a couple minutes ago. I want to
really quickly before we jump into golf, because it was mentioned in the All-Star game for basketball.
Yeah.
And I just want to ask your opinion on this. Adam Silver's talking about, and it kind of fits in with the tournament, which is why I waited until after we talked about college basketball. Right. Adam Silver wants to change the playoff format to 1-16. Yay or nay from you? The jury's out for me.
No chance. No chance.
You still want East versus West?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the East is starting to close the gap.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, everyone's, what if LeBron goes to LA and blah, 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 and Paul George goes to LA, this and that. Like, the super teams, whatever, you can say what you want, but these things always have a way of regulating themselves out, for the longest time, it was just people like, the only reason why the Heat are there because everyone else in the East is brutal. But like when the Lakers and the Celtics with Paul Pierce and Kobe Bryant made it, you could argue that the East, top to bottom, had more depth. Yeah, the top teams in the West were probably better, but top to bottom, the East had more talent. But then the West drafted Durant and Westbrook and Curry, and they had, all their superstars now are drafted in the West. But look at the East. You got Giannis, you got Oladipo, you got all the young guys on. You got Embiid in the 76ers. You got the young studs on.
Jose.
That's what I'm saying. You got all these young studs across the Eastern Conference, and I think at some point they're going to catch up, and if not pass, but eventually get there. And that's something, you got to trust the young talent coming into the league to eventually surpass, not that Durant or Westbrook are old, but at some point their career is going to come to an end, and Embiid is going to be in his prime, which is scary, and Oladipo is only going to be right there, and Giannis, who's probably a year or two older than Embiid, is he going to be even in the same exact place, probably better skill set than a guy like Embiid and LeBron and KD, just because based on where he's going now. So I think that it's going to regulate itself out, and I think it's stupid to do the 1-16. It's just like, what's the point of even having conferences? What's the point of even having divisions if you're just like, why not, just make it college basketball and just have everyone in the same, you can play whoever you want. That's just in my opinion, it's a silly idea, silly concept, and I'm upset that the commissioner would dignify it with that type of response and everything like that. But what's your opinion?
No, the jury's out for me because it would be exciting to see, but you're right. It's not like it finds its way to regulate itself. And I didn't even think about this until you started bringing up these examples. But like we've seen it in other sports too. Baseball, forever in the mid to late 2000s, it was the American League is so much better than the National League, and then for a little bit in the early tens, it was the National League's better now, and now it's probably getting back towards that even level. But if you look at who won the championships year after year, basically alternated from 2004 until really, I think it still has over the last couple of years. And so you never really know. Yeah, obviously, we're in a weird spot with basketball right now because we're potentially looking at the same matchup 4 straight years in a row. But
yeah, and you're looking. I mean, and not for nothing, same thing with football, right? It was Brady and Peyton, and the AFC was so much better than everyone else. And they were unbelievable. And now, I mean, once I guess Peyton got to the end of his career, now it's okay, Tom Brady and maybe the Steelers and maybe the Chiefs for the AFC, and then everyone in the NFC is a factor. Atlanta's unbelievable. Seattle's unbelievable. Philly, based on this year, obviously is going to be good for the next couple of years. The Rams are going to be unbelievable. You got all these teams now in the NFC. They're just the Saints have been unbelievable. So just all these teams in the NFC that are just the depth is there. Whereas, like I said before, the AFC was leagues above the NFC. So I think it's also
Jacksonville was a complete joke like 3 years ago, and they made the AFC championship game.
Yeah, I mean that. Trying to prove against my point, but I mean Cleveland has had one win in 2 years.
That's true.
Proving the AFC is just a joke, and like when we were young, I mean not younger, but when we were in college and high school, Cleveland, they had
they got close a couple times. They haven't made the playoffs in forever, but they got close when we were in high school.
Yeah, and who's the running back that broke like the single game record and rushing?
Oh, the dude that was on the cover of Madden. Yeah, what was his name?
Yeah, and then they had the white guy too, who was good, and like.
That's what I was thinking of, the white guy.
Yeah, they had those good players. Like what I mean? Yeah, like you said, they never really made it.
I think you're thinking of Maurice Jones-Drew. He was a Jaguar.
Yeah, I mean, the point is that the AFC for the longest time was better, and so you are even.
But anyway,
yeah.
Anyway. I just want to get your thought on that, and I think we would have been behooving ourselves to not mention it. But you had but you wanted to bring up a little golf, so let's jump into that.
Yeah, I mean, the only stories that I care about in golf at the end of the day are obviously Tiger and the Ryder Cup. Those are the only two stories that I'm gearing up for. I mean, yeah, the majors are going to be great, and yeah, I'm going to care about them going into week to week, but everything's building towards the Ryder Cup, and everything's building towards will Tiger be playing well enough at the time to be considered. They've announced him as a vice captain, but will he be good enough, playing well enough at the time for Furyk to put him on the squad and have him as out there playing as well as being a vice captain? And we can get into the Ryder Cup preview, I'm sure, much later down the road.
Oh yeah, we will.
But in majors, I'm sure you're gonna have your own thing. But with Rory playing the most golf he's ever played in a couple seasons, and he's admitted he's in the best shape that he's been in a while, and everyone on the U.S.
It's not wincing to breathe.
What?
Rory last year had the rib issues. That's why he had a down year.
Yeah. But the U.S. having all these young players and all these guys who are probably good, like they have enough talented players to make the team without having captain's picks. So like there's even a race to make that team, and everyone's gearing up to play on the Ryder Cup team for USA now, and it's like this excitement that hasn't been there. Not gonna lie, in a couple of years, just because of how dominant the Europeans were. And I think the fact that all the young talent is back on the U.S. now that Tiger. I mean, really, you could argue all because of Tiger, the U.S. golf is good again, because all these guys talk about, oh, we grew up watching Tiger. Oh, we grew up watching Tiger. Like they all wanted to be Tiger, and you could argue that kids.
Justin Thomas complained about playing with Tiger and the noise levels. This
I know,
weekend.
But the year before, he was saying that he grew up watching him and wanted to be him. Like,
yeah.
That's like a thing. And Rory even said it, because Rory even said at the past tournament that Tiger Woods, like, you lose like
he loses a half a stroke.
Yeah.
Remember the Rory Tiger Nike commercial from like 3 years ago?
Yeah.
That thing I could still watch, and that thing would give me fucking goosebumps.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show you like how impressive Tiger, what he was doing at the time, how impressive it was, and what he's even doing now, like trying to go like, if no one was on the course, like they talk about how good he is in his practice rounds. If no one was on the course, I bet you he would be winning majors. But that's just not the reality of the situation, and he's got to mentally get back to that point where he can take everything out.
Yeah,
so long-winded question.
Yeah.
Like I said, the only things I care about, and I'm sorry I went on a rant and I haven't let you talk in a while.
No, you're good.
Tiger and the Ryder Cup. Give me what I need to be looking out for. Can I be hopeful at all? Give me your talk me off the ledge that I'm on here.
So a couple thoughts. My dad and I were talking about Tiger pretty good length last night while we were at a hockey game. So this tells you how much this is on my mind too. Tiger's spraying his driver all over the fucking place. We saw in 2013 when Tiger Woods won 5 events, 0 majors, but 5 events. He wasn't using his driver. He was using his 3-wood, that red 3-wood that he hits those fucking Tiger stingers with, the trademark shot. Mm-hmm. He needs to do that. Now, with the Ryder Cup, I think using this past weekend, not Tiger Woods' weekend, but Bubba Watson's weekend, tells us a couple things. Bubba was a captain's pick a couple years ago. Means a lot to him. Whether you love or hate Bubba, I've always been back and forth because he's just an asshole. But there's something like that fucking shot he made, even though it was kind of douchey of him pointing at his caddy like Jordan Spieth did. You still got to give credit where credit's due. But Bubba was a captain's pick, did decently well in that Ryder Cup where the U.S. did win. I think it was last year's President's Cup. But anyway, I think, though, seeing that type of stuff where a captain's pick can make an impact, that's why you have them instead of just making it 1 through 12. These are the guys.
Right.
A couple things that concern me. 2 years ago, on U.S. soil meant a ton. We obviously had 2012. That was in the back of our minds, the meltdown at Medina, and really redeemed ourselves there after really an electric Friday and Saturday, and then you wondered what the hell was going to happen. You had that Rory-Patrick Reed matchup where both of them are basically just pumping the crowd up. It looked like a fucking college basketball game. It was awesome. We now go back to Europe. It's in France. I'd have to look this up, but I don't think the Ryder Cup's ever been in France. But that doesn't mean that this gives the U.S. this almost neutral site because it's still Europe. You still have some good European players from both France and the rest of continental Europe. I'm not sure if that's what you call the non-UK part of Europe. But for the sake of argument, we're going to call it that. Still have good Germans, you've Spaniards, even though they're douchebags. Good Italians with the Molinaris. Trying to think who else is pretty good. Oh, you have the Swedes, Henrik Stenson being obviously the big one there. So you're going to have a good showing from the European team on their home continent. So it'll be tough. They haven't won in Europe, I think, since the 90s. So that's a big hump to go there. Now with Tiger, what he brings, he's already been named an assistant captain. He was named it earlier this week. So that's huge. Whether he's playing or not, having that experience and that if he can recapture that fuck you attitude that he had when everybody was scared of Tiger, and that's probably the thing that scares me the most is wanting to see Tiger win now, is that the fuck you isn't there right now and people aren't afraid of him. So he always had that mental edge, and he needs that to have a better shot at it because these guys like Rory, like Spieth, like JT, like Jason Day, like Justin Rose, and he's even a little older. They've all been there. They've won those tournaments on iconic courses. Shout out to Justin Rose who won at Marion. But, it'll be long-winded answer to your long-winded question. To see Tiger win or see Tiger play, I think we need to see more of like what we have this week where he had kind of an okay week. Not even shitty because he got close to making the cut. But the fact that he immediately decided to turn around and play again this week when he had announced that he was only going to play so many tournaments that were staggered leading up to Augusta, because that's really all that fucking matters to him right now, is play at Augusta, make the cut there, and just show that I'm making these strides. Then I'll go to Shinnecock for the U.S. Open. Then I'll go across the pond to play at Carnoustie for the Open Championship. Then I go play in the PGA. That's what he wants to start working on. Then I'll worry about. I'm sure then he's going to take the step there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think part of it is too, like you talked about that mental edge or whatever that he had, and I think not that he can't ever get it back, but he's never going to be in the same mindset that he was before. He's gone through too much, and he's gone too much of like a, before, his dad instilled in him, like, it's you versus everyone. It's you versus the world. Like, no one's ever going to give you a chance. You're black, you're Asian. No one's ever going to like you. And like,
Ablation. Yeah.
And like, that was like his motivator. He's trying to be the best. And like, now it's very much, okay, you've established yourself as the best. Like if not of all time, you're the greatest of this generation. And if not second of all time or third of all time, like you're there. And so he's not really chasing a ghost anymore, and then I think he's content with where he stands historically, because he has so much respect for Arnold and Jack that I think he's comfortable where he is, because he's in the conversation at least. And then in terms of like, he was always, everyone always talked about him in the ride with Phil, and like he never opened up to anyone. And I think now he's at a point where he's like, I isolated myself before and got myself in trouble with my personal life. Let me be friends with these kids, and these kids like are really good kids, and they look up to me. So like, I'm not gonna be a douchebag to them. Like, there's no need, And like you said, the kids aren't really treating him as like an enemy. Like, why should we allow this like black guy to take over this predominantly white sport, and that's not really a thing anymore, and that's not really a motivator. And that's, I mean, not that racist.
Tiger fucking Woods. They want to play with Tiger. They want to be with the guy they grew up watching.
100%. So I think he's gonna have to find and motivate himself in a much different way than he was doing before. And I just don't think he knows how to do that yet.
Because if he stays healthy is the big thing, and if he figures that out, then he'll be competitive. Yeah, that's all we really want out of him.
I think at some point, Jordy, he's got to mentally turn around and be like, okay, I want to be better than Arnold. I want to be better than Jack. And I think honestly that's where he's going to motivate himself at the end of the day. But like you said, I think he's too focused on getting health, and he's too focused on rebuilding his image. And then from there, he can start and do everything else. But too long of talk with golf. I think I want to quickly touch about your Bubba Bourne, him being an asshole. I mean, people say that and you hear those rumors, but like, you're talking about a guy who adopted a kid for whatever who had mental issues. You talk about a guy who
that's true too. Yeah.
Yeah, you talk about a guy who constantly is promoting and trying to work with kids with Down syndrome and kids with mental illnesses and things like that. And for whatever people talk about him and how he's like kind of mean to the gallery and kind of mean to people, like at the same time, if I was getting chirped on the golf course, I mean, and just like with anyone else, but me specifically, like if someone chirped me when I'm in the heat of my athletic game, or if I'm like on the ice and or wherever I am, or lacrosse field, and someone like says something to me, my reaction is going to be so over the top compared to if you made fun of me out of it. You know what I mean? Like, so I can understand like when he's in that mental space or capacity, trying to focus on the next shot. If some guy's like, "Oh, Bubba, you suck," or like you're an asshole, like, or like snapping a picture of him in his backstring, like I'd be so pissed too as a competitor. First and foremost. So I have no qualms with him. I have no qualms with him getting upset with people while he's on the course, and every single athlete now in this day and age, in order to make money, needs to play whatever character they're going to play on social media so they can get sponsors and they can promote things. And he's doing that, and he's doing that to a T. And I mean, in terms of his career, like he's won 2 Masters. He's been on Ryder Cup teams. He's been on President Cup teams. Like he's done
the Genesis Open 3 times now. Yeah,
and he's done so much, and like, and he's won majors, and like, he's a lefty. You don't really see that too much. So not for nothing, but I like him. I know you back and forth. I know you don't like him, but I know most people don't. But I'm a fan.
All right.
Yeah, I'm a fan. Anyways, what's the next topic here? What I feel like how long we've been on? We gotta speed up the last couple of topics here. Maddie's gonna yell. Maddie's gonna yell at us for making your pod long here.
Well, I just got a picture of Matty D on his ski trip in Colorado, and he's asleep right now. And mind you, it's 8:30 here on the East Coast, so it's 6:30 in Colorado. So, I mean, he's
maybe he's just taking a nap, gearing up for the night. Maybe he's just taking a nap after a long day on the slopes. He's gonna take a nap, get some dinner, and then turn around and crush whatever bar he's going out to. You never know.
Maybe. You also have an image of Matt in your head that we'll need to rectify the next time you come to Philly. Thunder Cup 2. Stay tuned. Well, let's move to also he doesn't normally listen when he's not on, so I think we're safe in terms of the length this week. But let's move on to hockey. And I'm going to pause quick, Greg. I'm going to cut this out because I need to take a piss really badly. So give me 1 second.
What's up? And we're live. What's up? And we're live, everyone. I want you to show me the way.
All right, I'm back.
What's up? And we're live.
All right, we're going to go 3, 2, 1. NHL last night, Tuesday night. Both of our teams, Greg, impressive comebacks. I got to give the more impressive one to your Bruins because you did it on the road and you did it from 2-0. Flyers did it with a minute and a half left. My guy Jake Voracek with the big goal, but both teams so hot right now. The Bruins keeping pace with Tampa, and Tampa might need to watch out because the Bruins are making a push.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about that a little bit before the All-Star break. The Bruins are playing at a clip right now where they very easily could catch Tampa, and Tampa got off such a hot start that it was unrealistic for them to continue that as it always is. The Bruins are 1 point behind the Lightning as we speak. And the Maple Leafs are fading a little bit, and then no one else is really close to the top 3 teams after that in the East. But
I mean the Atlantic.
Sorry, the Atlantic. My mistake.
Well, I guess and the East if we're doing 1, 2, 3 Eastern Conference, but they don't do that anymore. Speaking of wild playoff changes.
Yeah, seriously, that's still the dumbest thing. The NHL muffs things, everything all over the place, and I'm gonna get so heated in about 15 minutes once we're done the NHL. I'm about to get so heated at Bettman and the NHL as an organization, but they bundled this thing from top to bottom with the playoffs. But honestly, Jordy, the thing that scares me the most is the Penguins.
Yeah, it scares the shit out of me too.
At the end of the day, if they're in the playoffs, they're going. I think they're going back for another third cup in a row potentially.
I think they literally. Sidney Crosby drove to Cleveland over the summer, talked to LeBron. LeBron told him, "Hey, you can go to Mexico for a month and just not give a shit, or in your mind go to Mexico because you're going to get fined in the NHL, unlike me in the NBA." And just don't give a shit about the regular season. Turn it on in January, and you're good. Because they've done that for 2 of his 3 cups where they legitimately stunk in the first half. Fired their coach, had an unreal run from basically the All-Star break onward, and won a Stanley Cup. And this year they were just okay. They didn't stink because the Metropolitans just been so up and down. But now they've won 5 in a row. They've won 8 of their last 10, and they are trading first place with the Capitals right now, which for me as a Flyers fan, if the Flyers hold on to the 3 seed, I'd much rather play Washington because Pittsburgh's red hot and they can pretty much dissect you any which way they want to.
Yeah, and I mean Pittsburgh at the end of the day, they didn't start well because they had a lot of injuries, and
that's true too.
They've been just 2 straight cups. Like, they talk about fatigue and like the Blackhawks fatigue and how the Blackhawks haven't really been good this year because their core guys have played in the playoffs deep runs for the last like 10 years in a row, and they're just fucking exhausted. Like the Penguins came in with 100% fatigue just from last season. Like you don't get the full off season. You get the Flyers who are out or didn't even make the playoffs, and they had all those extra days to actually recover and work out. And the Capitals played, or the Penguins played for another month and a half after most of these teams. And then you think about it takes you a month probably to recover, or a couple weeks just to get your body right after a grueling 82-game season. And then you turn around, then you have to start working out. And guess what? Camp is like a month or two later. So you really don't have that time like everyone else has. So more power to them, and I don't mind their slow start. But they're, in my opinion, my prediction potentially is that sort of they're on that track to turn around and make that long-term cup run again. My hope,
I see that too.
My hope, obviously, as a Bruins fan, is to 100% have the Bruins turn around and win it. And I think they have the ability to do that. The issue is, again, just like with the 76ers and the Celtics, or just like with the Celtics, I should say, are their rookies? Can their rookies do enough? Because all year the Bruins have gotten a lot of production from their rookies. It hasn't just been the Bergeron-Marchand line. The playoffs, yes, Bergeron and Marchand are going to show up, but can the rookies do enough in the playoffs to unseed this stud of a superstar team with the Pittsburgh Penguins? And I think and even Tampa, you could say the same argument about Tampa, and that's going to be the biggest crux, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, that's what you've seen out of New Jersey. They had that for basically up until 15 games ago, where they were in first place in the division, and then their rookies kind of slowed down a little bit. They had a couple goalie injuries. You have that with the Flyers right now, the exact same thing, where the rookies are supporting that first line and a half because they keep mixing them around. And then you lose a couple goalies. Granted, the Flyers have won 7 of their last 10. But, I mean, the Bruins, I think, are a little more seasoned than both of those teams. So I'd be a little more optimistic if I were a Bruins fan than I would be as myself as a Flyers fan, or if you were a New Jersey Devils fan. I think the big thing, and the I'm going to be punny here, but the wild card of it is who does come out as the wild card teams, because Columbus isn't going away, which they shouldn't. They have a pretty good defense, but just an abysmal offense. Carolina is right there, and that's surprising because of just their chemistry and how they're made up, and they're a point away from Columbus right now. The Islanders are still hanging around, which I'd love to see them kind of get it together, but they also really fell apart, and a lot of injuries there too. The Rangers look like they're about to sell the entire farm, except for maybe, I'm not even sure who they might keep, but Henrik Lundqvist, we're in the NHL, not golf now, seems to be maybe the only one that you wouldn't dish just because of the contracts. A lot like with Chicago, where you have all these guys on mega contracts that deserve them because you won 3 cups in 6 years, but they're kind of just loaded there because the cap hasn't gone up, and they have this big boulder there. But question for you, off of your theory of not making deep cup runs, is this why we're seeing Vegas do so well? Because they've played 0 games in the last year, so now they're like, oh, we have all these games to win, we might as well win them. I had to make the dad joke there.
No, that was good. You could argue that Fleury didn't really play that much in the playoffs, and you could argue that he was hurt, so he had the break all year. You could argue that I mean, yeah, they had guys who were on some of those top teams and made some runs in the playoffs, but yeah, you could certainly make that argument. I think honestly, why Vegas is doing so well is the theory that everyone has had all year, and the theory that everyone had the second they announced a Vegas team is that teams go into Vegas the night before a game, get buried, going out on the town in Vegas, because why wouldn't you? You're in Vegas. Unless the team has a back-to-back, I don't ever foresee a team going into Vegas and coming out the next day not hungover unless it's a playoff series. So throughout the year, the reason why they've done so well is the theory that everyone keeps saying. I know it's a joke and we can laugh about it, but it's 100% the theory that the Golden Knights are doing so well at home because teams just get buckled and trashed and are hungover going into the game and the next day. And I mean, they're 22-5-2 at home. 22-5-2 at home. Like that's unbelievable. Yeah, you mentioned Winnipeg, but that's
unreal.
Yeah,
they're the only two teams that might have better records that just need to do the winning percentage math. They have more wins. This is why I bring them up. It's Pittsburgh and Winnipeg. I've had a great time in Pittsburgh before, but I don't think you're having a better time in Pittsburgh than you are in Vegas.
No.
And I've heard Winnipeg, there's nothing to fucking do, which is why they made that travel video. Remember that thing that came out like a couple months ago?
Yeah.
Because somebody tried to bury Winnipeg, and so they came up with their version of the hastily made Cleveland tourism video.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Cleveland tourism video, but yeah, I mean, honestly, the West. I mean, I know we talk about these, but the West is really one of those top to bottom. They have so many good teams, and it's gonna be interesting coming down the stretch. Who goes what? Who goes where? Where it's gonna shake out the playoff picture, because it's all going to come down to matchups in terms of who comes out of the West, in my opinion.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine. San Jose is the Capitals of the West. You know, they have great. I mean, I guess actually the Ducks, I guess, would be that the San Jose or the capital of the West. But you know, San Jose is sort of up there too. They very, very rarely make those deep runs.
They've only gotten over the hump once.
Yeah, and
better than the Capitals since the what's it called?
Right.
Obi came into the picture.
And I'm not sure the Golden Knights can. I'm not sure the Golden Knights can.
No, I'd agree with you. I think eventually they get caught up.
Yeah, I don't know if they have enough to make a deep like cup run. Or like
they're not a very good road team. That's the issue. You go to a place. I mean, looking at the Pacific and who's there, the only team that I'd be scared of if I was them would be maybe San Jose, but they're not very good on the road either. I mean, really, whoever comes out as a wild card team out of the Central Division, because it looks like that might be who it is, depending on how Anaheim does. But they're kind of up and down. They have older goalies, so that could affect it, especially as we're talking about the fatigue of a long season. I mean, really, like you said, it just comes down to the matchups there, and who do you end up having to go to on the road if you're Vegas? And does travel come into play if you're going out to, you know, Nashville wouldn't be until Western Conference Final, but if you're going to St. Louis or Minnesota, you know, really that factor there. But we'll see. I mean, it'll be interesting down the stretch of how everything goes.
I mean, quickly, like everyone in the Central, with the exception of the Blackhawks, is in play.
Yeah, exactly. Colorado's not going away, which good for them.
Yeah.
Nathan McKinnon killing it, which he really needed to do after a couple down years, but
not surprised. Not surprised. But like, and everyone in the Pacific,
not surprised.
Yeah. And I mean, the Central, you got Predators, the Jets, the Stars, the Blues, the Wild, and the Avalanche. You know, the only team that's probably out is the Blackhawks.
Oh, they're definitely out. They're 10 points back.
Pacific. Yeah, the Pacific, the Knights, the Sharks, the Kings, the Ducks, the Flames. You know, they're all in it. And the Flames are a team that if they're an 8 seed, they sneak in, they could upset Vegas in the first round.
They could,
because they're on. You know, they're. I'm pretty sure Calgary. Yeah, similar time zone. They do better on the road. They're a much better road team because they don't have the pressure of being in fucking Calgary.
The Saddle Dome. Ooh.
Yeah, and they have Gaudreau, and they have a young grinder in Kachuk that like just gets under people's skins, almost like a Marchand. And so like if they sneak in somehow and they're an 8 seed or whatever, and they play Vegas in the first round, you know, that could be a team that I think upsets Vegas. I honestly, Jordy, without being as silly as it sounds and as stupid as it sounds, I think Nashville and Pittsburgh repeat of last year's finals. I know I said the same thing in the NBA, and it could most likely shake that way out for baseball as well. But I really, as sad as it sounds, I think Nashville might have that because they're playing well right now. You know, they're
playing really well. And granted, I have not been to many arenas of Western Conference teams, but I did go to Nashville this year, and it was a fucking mid-November game. So it was one of their first 20 games, so probably one of their first 10 home games. And that thing felt like a playoff game. It was loud. It was rowdy as fuck. I mean, those guys, I can only imagine what it's like. I was in the second to last row, so I can only imagine what it's like in the lower bowl in a playoff game if you're the opposing team, because they're already chanting shit like it's all your fault and all that kind of stuff in a fucking November game. I can only imagine what it's like in May. I can only imagine what it's like in June.
Yeah.
So I mean, they just need to work on their road record. But the only team that I would say right now that if I was Nashville, that I'd be scared of is Winnipeg. And that's really about it. Dallas might be able to make a scare, but they're terrible on the road. St. Louis is good at home. They're okay on the road, but they kind of need to figure it all out, put some of the pieces together, not cool down like they've tended to do. Because they've had a lot of like big blow up games where they've won like 7-2 and stuff like that. So that's a lot of where their goal differential comes from. Their defense is pretty good, is okay, but yeah, you need to see them be taking a step up. Minnesota could make a run at it, but they're really not a good road team. So I wouldn't necessarily bet a lot of money there, but we'll see. You know,
let's get into it. Set it up here, Jordy. Let's fucking get into it. I need to let it out. So do you. Let's get into it. Set it up for us.
So we move on to the Olympics. We're about 2 hours right now. We're recording this Wednesday night. So by the time that you listen to this tomorrow on Thursday, the women's game will have already ended. We'll talk a little bit about it. We'll give our thoughts and theories. You can laugh at how wrong we are in a second, but we need to talk about the fucking men's team and how the NHL shot our boys in the fucking foot multiple times, fucked them so fucking badly comparatively to what the OAR did, because they could send KHL players. We didn't send NHL players. We sent old dudes instead of NCAA players, who ended up, the four guys that are Division I athletes, comparatively to old NHL players, were the guys that were the stars of the fucking tournament. What the fuck?
I mean,
I wish you didn't want to curse anymore. I'd like you to curse. Please let it all out.
I wish I could argue with you. I really do. But the only I guess the only country that hurt more was Canada, because the Canadians.
Canada's still in it though.
I know they're still in it, but they look just as bad. Like
yeah, that's true.
They've made the medal, or did they win their quarterfinal game? They're in the medal round.
They're in it. Sweden lost though. Sweden lost to fucking Germany in a shootout.
Right, so they're in the semis, right?
Yeah, they're in the semis. Did they play Germany or did they play the Czechs?
No, I think Czech plays OAR.
Yeah, you're right. They do. Yeah, Czechs play OAR. So Germany, Canada.
I guess
trip to the gold medal game.
I guess Canada could make a gold medal game, but yeah. Honestly, like, not for nothing, but it's just been I have so many issues. One with the NHL, yes. One with USA Hockey on their own, and third, we can get into whatever. But so let's start with the NHL, and they're just like never. It's been so long, probably since Sid was a rookie, that there's been this much young talent in the league, and there's so many good fucking young kids, and that was proven by that goddamn stupid fucking North American team that they put.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, in the fucking World Cup of Hockey 2 years ago.
The World Cup of Hockey, which Gary Bettman in the NHL started because, again, it's all about money, and he's super smart, and like he knew, the Olympic will never allow us to put the NHL logo anywhere. So fuck the Olympics. We're not going to send our guys there. They're not going to get.
And they fucked up the stupid TV. Sorry, this isn't a World Cup of Hockey thing, but they fucked up the TV shit with ESPN, so it was barely on TV. Sorry.
Right. No, I'm same page here, bud. Same.
Yeah. Gary Bettman's a fucking loser.
Anyway, so agreed. So the NHL basically was like, you know what? Like, F you Olympics. We're not going to send you to. We're not going to send our guys there because you know what? Like we want our own money, and we'll keep their revenue, and people will watch us instead of you, and fuck you guys. And guess what? Yeah. USA Hockey played right into the hands of Bettman. They did fucking exactly what he wanted, and they brought in these old fucking guys. Like, I mean, Gianta, yeah, he's good. He's experienced. You can say what you want, but the guy was winning a national title when you and I were in fucking middle school, Jordy. We were 12 years old, 13 years old, and this guy was winning a national championship at BC, and then he was in the Olympics like shortly thereafter. And it's just like, what are we doing? And you mentioned it. Ryan Donato, 6 or 7 goals in the Olympics.
Yeah. You should be pumped as a fucking Bruins fan because he killed it.
Yeah, and he's
in the Olympics.
And he's a Hobie Baker, either if not first or second guy right now. He's a junior at Harvard. You know, I hope he comes out just for the Bruins playoff run, but you never know. He probably might not. A degree from Harvard probably could go a long way, but whatever. Jordan Greenway and Troy Terry, the other 2 guys who just absolutely the best line and the only production lines for the U.S. were the lines that had the college kids on it. And why, as USA Hockey, right, why are you sending AHL players like Chris Bourque, who has played a total of like 7 games in his NHL career, maybe. He's been in the AHL for the last 5 years in a row, and you turn around and send him to the Olympics and put him on your first or second line? Like, What are we talking about here? Why do we not have either the last 3 or 4 World Junior hockey teams for the U.S., which, guess what? They've been in the gold medal game the last like 3 or 4 times, right? They've been in the gold medal game all those times in a row. Why would you not send all those college kids who have played together, who have
the camaraderie? Did they make it to the gold medal game this year?
Okay, whatever.
Regardless.
No, bronze.
Yeah, they won the bronze. Yeah, but still, they won it 2 years ago, and half these guys should be.
But I'm saying is like, unless the guys are in the NHL like McAvoy, they should be on this team. You know, they should be this USA team. They had
the dude from Northeastern that said he'd rather win the Bean Pot than win an Olympic gold medal. Which,
right?
I get you're saying that when he won the Bean Pot, but still, it's a fucking Olympic gold medal.
Right. That's because he wasn't even considered. They didn't even invite him to a tryout. So he, like, what else do you want him to say? He got snubbed from the beginning, the jump. Like, and that kid from Northeastern, Jordy, he's the Hobie Baker frontrunner because he's leading Donato, the kid who made Team USA from Harvard. He's leading Donato by about 2 goals, maybe 3 on the year. So, like, those 2 are neck and neck going for the Hobie Baker, and this kid has been playing for the last 2 weeks, and Donato's been in the Olympics. But whatever. The point is that if we had college kids, if the U.S. had college kids on this team, then, or even like you take the World Junior team, like that's the thing. Like the Czech Republic, the team they lost to, Slovenia, all these random ass countries. Normally they only have a line or 2 of NHL players anyway. So like all these guys play together 24/7. They play together all the time. So of course they're going to be better. Of course they're going to have the chemistry. Of course they're going to play together and they're going to do good things like that. Like, of course it's going to happen, right? So then you turn around and the Olympic athletes from Russia, right? What they did, Jordy, was they took the top line from the KHL Team 1. They took the top line from KHL Team 2. They took the top line from KHL Team 3. And those are their top 3 lines, right? That's their 1, 2, 3 lines. And those 3 guys have been playing together the entire year on the same line for their respective KHL teams, right? And then you go ahead and you add Datsuk and Kovalchuk and another former NHL player. And you have 4 lines that are just unbelievable top to bottom.
Unreal.
Yeah, and they, not that they would have, this team, Russia would be 100% better with Malkin and Ovechkin on it, but like reality is the Russians are that KHL, that Russian team, all those guys probably could be in the NHL right now still, and they would be, competitive and playing around and this and that. But like they're just making everyone else look like JV. They're essentially varsity, making everyone else look like JV. But the point is that like the USA bundled this thing from the beginning. Yeah, you blame the NHL, but the NHL won in this case, because the NHL won because now they can go back to the Olympics and say, guess what? The hockey sucked because we didn't have NHL players, and that's on you. But if USA Hockey was just smart, like the NHL has all the bargaining chips now. If the USA Hockey was smart and didn't play into Gary Bettman's hands, then they turn around and they probably fucking are in the medal games. They're probably in the semis and have a chance to turn around and fucking win a medal, but they didn't. The USA played right into Bettman's hands, and they probably were in collusion with this fucking rat piece of shit, this rat fuck. and now we got Arabello, and I mean the USA goalie, granted, played unbelievable. Mercier's product. a product of Mercer, played unbelievable, but like at the same time, you're telling me Ryan Miller, Jonathan Quick, and I mean those are the goalies from last time, but now you got Matt. I mean now you got what?
Murray's Canadian, isn't he?
No, yeah, I wasn't gonna say him. The Schneider, right?
Yeah, Corey Schneider.
Yeah,
who probably should have played more in the last couple Olympics.
You got Gibson. You got Gibson from the Ducks. I mean, you got all these guys who should be there, and goaltending, and top to bottom, it's just so frustrating, and I'm just so rattled, so pissed off, and I mean, you're telling me you wouldn't like to have seen the Flyers product, Joey Hart as the goalie for Canada, like
Carter Hart, you mean?
Yeah. Yes.
Carter Hart. I would have loved to see Ghost play for Team USA. I would have loved to see. I mean, just name all these fucking dudes, because you're right. The USA is so youth rich in terms of talent that it would have been such a great way to promote the next 10 years of NHL players. Oh my God, it's just such a bundled fucking situation that they did. Oh my God. Should we just move on? Should we move on to the women and hopefully we'll have something to be celebrating once you're all listening to this?
Listen, I'm so heated and I can't get listen, USA hockey, the women's hockey, good for them. They fought for their rights. They asked the USA to pay for them for a year to train and everything like that. And
how fucked is that they weren't getting paid in non-Olympic years?
Yeah, they would only get paid for the tournaments they played.
I thought it was they got paid for like the World Championships, but that was it in a non-Olympic year. And then in Olympic years, like they got paid for like
the 2 weeks of the Olympics
stuff.
The 2 weeks of Olympics, right? So now they're getting paid to be, USA hockey players year round and whatever. So that's a good thing. So good for the U.S. women's team fighting for that. But you can't turn around and not win. You can't turn around and not win the gold medal, and you can't turn around and not beat Canada in the Olympics, because that's the whole reason why they fought for their medal, and that's the whole reason why.
And that's the whole crazy thing, is that they won last year. They win in the fucking World Championships, but then the Olympics come around and they freeze almost.
Agreed. So, and I think the fact they lost to them already in the tournament, I think that's going to help the women's team, the U.S. women's team in the end, because, as we learned from when the U.S. men's team beat Canada, and then it ended up losing to them in the gold medal game. I think, for whatever reason, if you win the first time, you think you can beat them again, and you have the mental edge. Whereas if you lose the first time, you're very much more like, let's get back at these guys. Let's get our revenge. So I think I think it's beneficial to the U.S. and I think they're playing a 22, 23-year-old goalie. So good for them. And I think that I honestly think the U.S. is going to pull it out. Just based on like the games and how the U.S. has won the last 4 World Championships. They've done it in the final game and this and that. And I think they have all the pressure and they have everything to lose. But at the same time, that's why they've been together for the last year. That's why they've been training through these things. So I think this is the year they break through and they do it. In the
semifinal game, I mean, they just pummeled. Who was it? Finland. They just pummeled the shit out of them.
Yeah,
which I think they knew.
And Finland just won the bronze. Finland just beat the OAR and just won the bronze.
Yeah. Oh, well, good job, Finland. Yeah. So we beat the better team, is what you're telling me.
Exactly.
But I think they realized pedal to the metal time. Let's fucking go. Hopefully you are celebrating as you're listening to this podcast, and Greg and I are just sounding like grumpy, I don't want to say old men, but grumpy old 20-somethings and complaining about in one of our favorite sports. But we'll wrap up the hockey there, but we want to quickly mention to plug.
Quick, before you mention all your plugs, are you disappointed with Team USA?
The men?
No, all of Team USA in the Winter Olympics.
Oh, yeah, in general? Yeah, so aside from really a couple people, you had Red Gerard kicking off the Olympics well. You had Chloe Kim doing her thing. You had Adam Rapon, Eastern Pennsylvania product. Shout out Eastern PA. Just killing the game in terms of being an awesome interview with Mike Tirico to start it off, winning a bronze medal. And then continuing as a great commentator. But aside from that, you've had a lot of disappointments. You've had Lindsey Vohn's running tonight or this tomorrow, whatever it turns out to be in terms of timing. But long-winded answer to your question. Overall, very disappointing run. Not that you expect us to be up there in terms of like top 3 in terms of a medal count like in the Summer Olympics, but still just a bummer. And I don't know what it is. I mean, because we just won our first women's cross-country skiing medal, which is awesome that we're winning medals and things that we've never traditionally been good at. But I don't know what else, I mean, there is some sort of cloud of disappointment.
The USA basically won the X Games.
Yeah.
The event so far. We've won the X Games. Sick. Congrats on the gold medal on men's half pipe, women's half pipe, men's snow trick air, women's snow trick air, and all that stuff. Like, we won the X Games. That's what our gold medals are in right now. We haven't won gold in like virtually anything else. I know they just won a biathlon, the first biathlon medal or whatever, shooting, whatever.
They got a bronze though. It was like the relay race.
No, but I know, but the one woman just won the first gold. But overall, I hope the U.S. Winter Olympic Committee or whatever, who's ever in charge, takes a look at this Olympics and really learns something and gears up for the next 4-year run, and turns around and focuses on some of these events that no one fucking watches, like speed track and long track and all this other BS, and we can actually medal in it. But let's all right, plug your blogs.
Well, what I was gonna plug, well, for one, go read the nightly roundup, thunderblogsports.com. I plugged it a little bit before with the Flyers. What I was going to plug, baseball season is upon us. We're going to break down a little bit of spring training, give you a hint, but a little taste of what's to come with the bullpen cart coming back in full swing once March comes around. If you were not listening to the podcast last year, we had all 6 divisions as their own separate previews. So stay tuned for that. I'm sure we will have Greg on for, at the very least, the AL East, if not other divisions as well. But it should be a lot of fun. I'm excited for this baseball season, especially with the Phillies having some excitement around their camp.
Finally, the cold off season of the MLB has heated up, and finally we have.
Yeah, you're hitting the nail right on the head. It's perfect that we're bringing it up now because there's finally some signings. Scott Boras, the collusion against him is starting to finally crack as he talked a big game, but couldn't back it up with some of the big contracts. Granted, there's still a lot of money to be sent out, but not these super mega deals he wanted for his guys like JD Martinez and Eric Hosmer. And he wants it for Jake Arrieta. And there's a reason why the Phillies are not signing him, even though they've been talking to him for 2.5 months. They're waiting for him to balk down to 2 years instead of 6.
I mean, I can't believe he would want 6 years with only having 2 good years or 1 good year. So,
well, yeah, he won the Cy Young 3 years ago, and then he was okay, or he was pretty good in 16.
He hasn't
not as good as 15.
He hasn't been a Cy Young pace or that clip in a while. But yeah,
well, yeah, he stunk until after the All-Star game last year. Like, he was not good.
Yeah, so it's ridiculous him asking that money, but I guess he is a former Cy Young winner. But yeah, I mean, I think Cubs fans are holding out hope that he still signs with them and this and that. But
they got you Darvish, so you aren't really that upset.
I'm gonna go on a limb and say it's gonna be a very exciting season, and we're gonna get into full detailed pods and previews later. But I'm glad that the cold stove is starting to heat up finally and everything. So I'm looking forward to it. March Madness.
Excited about JD Martinez?
March Madness right around the corner. Yeah, I'm excited about JD Martinez. The only thing is that he's an oppo field hitter, right? He's a righty who loves to hit home runs to left center or to right center and right, and that's the longest part of the park at Fenway.
Deep porch.
Yeah, if you're a righty in Fenway, you have to pull it over the monster. But what I'm excited about with the Red Sox is Hanley Ramirez went on the Tom Brady diet and has dropped like 50 pounds and looks unbelievable, like in terms of his muscle, and he looks good. So TB12 diet mixing into baseball could work out for everyone.
No raspberries?
That'd be awesome.
Strawberries is the diet, right?
And tomatoes.
Oh, tomatoes are out too?
Yep, no tomatoes. Tom Brady's claimed he's never had one.
I find that very hard to believe. I guess. Where is he? He's from California. All right, maybe.
He said he's never had one. There's too much acidity in it, too much acid, right? So.
Yeah. All right. Well,
hey,
can't
listen,
argue with you.
If Hanley Ramirez has like a career year, I guarantee more and more people are gonna fall into this TB12 method, if you will. But
well, is Alex Cora gonna let Alex Guerrero into the clubhouse? Real question there.
I mean, great question.
Real questions. We're getting down to the real stuff.
All right, let's wrap it up here.
All right. Well, stay tuned for more bullpen coverage as we get into March. Like I said before, stay tuned for the nightly roundup where I break down the day that was, usually with one big topic and then some links. Follow us on Twitter, ThunderBLG. You can follow Greg on Twitter at GTPatelli. You can follow me at Jordo9. Thunderbug Sports for both Instagram and Facebook. ThunderbugSports.com, of course, is the website. Greg, my man, thank you as always for coming on. It's always a blast having you.
No, Jordy, listen, thank you. It's like I said, the golden voice of pod, and I
can only hope.
I feel like tonight you and I had a lot of long-winded answers as opposed to our typical back and forth. But I think
we still did a good job. We had the spirit there.
Oh, I think it was great. I'm just saying we made some great points. I'm just saying I think it was a good one. But love it. You're awesome. Go Sox. Go Bees. Go C's. And congrats. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, go Phillies, go Sixers, go Flyers. And that'll do it for us. For my man, Greg Piatelli, I am the G-Man, Jordy Cannell. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks again.